What?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my clock says 5:30. Shall we stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Be seated. Okay, as we begin, I think we're short a few members, but we do seem to have a quorum, so let's call the roll. Ms. Secretary, would you call the roll?
Yeah. Marvin Jones.
Present.
Marta Sprout.
Present.
Nick Colosi. Vicky, present. Brent Moore is travelling for work. Daryl Scanlon is held up at work, and Cutter Tate has the flu.
All right. Because we are so short-handed and have a small crowd tonight, the chair will entertain a motion to alter the, modify the agenda to take the new business first, old business second, and then get back to the regular agenda.
I so move that.
All right, it's been moved to modify the agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and second. Any discussion?
Question. Are we not allowed to speak at the beginning?
You'll get your 3 minutes, but it's not at the beginning right now. Okay, all in favor of modifying the agenda, raise your hand. Aye. Opposed? All right, let's move on to new business, please. Do you have an agenda handy? First thing on new business, item number 11, section A, Attorney Greg Cagle, motion to hire.
I move to engage or hire Greg Cagle and his law firm as the board's PIPOA attorney of record, effective immediately.
Any seconds?
I second that.
Second discussion. Oh, here we are. Discussion. Go ahead.
Is it set on?
1, 2, 3.
Now it works. Okay.
Sort of.
Just so everyone knows, Cagle is literally the man that wrote the book on POAs, and he has an enormous amount of experience with hundreds of other associations. I think he would be a valuable resource.
All right. Thank you. Other discussion? Vicki? Nick? All right. Called the question. All those in favor of hiring? Oh, sorry, you're out of order. All those in favor of hiring Mr. Cagle, raise your hand to signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? No board members opposed. Motion passes.
2.
Okay.
Let's see.
I think you didn't hear from me.
The next piece of business here. What?
I have a motion to do with this.
Oh, okay.
Mary. I move to terminate John Bell and his law firm's engagement as the board's or PIPOA's attorney of record effective immediately.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Moved and seconded. Discussion, please. Anyone? No discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I'd like to thank Mr. Bell for his services to date.
All right.
Can you fix the sound system where I didn't understand what she said?
She said, thank you, Mr. Bell.
Yeah, I said thank Mr. Bell for his services to date.
Where's the speaker at?
It's over, oh, it's there. Maybe you should reposition, Joe, so you can hear. Or we'll get you some earphones. Maybe sit just in front of it because it's facing us.
All right, moving on to item number.
There's one more attorney motion.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Could I have the speaker?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't scare Joe.
I move that any and all requests for legal advice and/or a legal opinion
shall only go through the PIPOA President, Marvin Jones. All requests or opinions shall be sought or obtained from the board's PIPOA attorney of record without the express written consent of the PIPOA Board President, Marvin Jones.
Motion before the floor, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion is discussion.
I have something to say.
All right.
I think that that's an excellent idea. I think that we have various people on the board asking the same question or separate questions from our current attorney, and I think that everything needs to be funneled through the president. To date, there has not been pushback from the president to ask for legal advice, so I don't feel that that's going to hinder us in any way to get the right information that we need.
Additional discussion? No additional discussion. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on. I think anybody else got more motions here? Item number 11, new business, removal of board members' names as proxies from the ballot.
I'd like to make a motion. I move to delete any and all current or future board members' names from the line on the PIPOA election ballot for directors that allows a voter to give their proxy to a current board member. Board members' names shall not be printed on the ballot as a possible proxy choice for a voter. A proxy line shall be included on the ballot. However, there shall be no name attached to it. It shall be blank for a write-in of a proxy voter.
All right, there's a motion before the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion. Marta.
Sure. I think I see this as a movement towards a very fair election procedures that we're developing. And I think if you put board members' names on a ballot, especially if they're running for the board, it's an unfair advantage. And I think property owners have a right to select who they want without undue influence. So I see it as a move towards a more fair system for everybody.
Additional discussion? No discussion? All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Could you read the motion again, please?
Sure.
Sure thing. I move to delete any and all current or future board members' names from the line on the PIPOA election ballot for directors that allows a voter to give their proxy to a current board member. Board members' names shall not be printed on the ballot as a possible proxy choice for a voter. A proxy line shall be included on the ballot. However, there shall be no name attached to it. It shall be blank for a write-in proxy by a voter.
Who will get the vote as proxy?
Joe, sorry, you're out of order. We're not taking questions from the audience here. That's a violation. Sorry. All right, where were we? Did we call the vote?
Yes, we did, and we voted.
We moved it.
We voted, and we moved it.
Moved and voted, all right.
Yes.
Moving on to old business number 10.
Channel markers.
Channel markers, Coast Guard letter. Let me read to you, if I can find it here in my stack, the Coast Guard letter we received. Just a moment, let me go through here. The Coast Guard sent the PIPOA to my attention as the president the following letter. Our records indicate that the PIPOA is the owner of 32 approved private aids to navigation in the Padre Isles North and South channels in Corpus Christi, Texas. Over the past 6 years, in 2012, 2014, 2016, 2017, and 2018. This office explained your responsibilities as per 33 CFR Part 66 to maintain the aids in proper operating condition. The Coast Guard has inspected and confirmed that all 32 private aids to navigation are either discrepant or missing. Due to the inability of the Padre Isles Property Owners Association to adhere to requirements listed in 33 CFR Part 66, the Coast Guard is rescinding the existing approvals for and administratively discontinuing all 6 current missing private aids to the navigation. And then they list the light numbers here. The remaining 26 discrepant aids are either unmarked, unlighted, or both, and are hazards to mariners. For those 26 discrepant aids, you have 30 days to effect repairs. After repairs are completed and the aids are watching properly, you are required to notify our office in writing via email to the Coast Guard. Please specify which private aids are required by the 2018 Coast Guard light list. All communication shall go to yada, yada, yada. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have to fix our channel markers. All right, I have prepared a proposal which was circulated to the board some time back, and prepared to make a motion regarding the repair and replacement of all 26 markers. All right.
I move to accept the repair and replacement proposal brought forward by Marvin Jones. This motion includes using Hendrickson Construction, a low bidder, for labor. First signing quote or Signing America quote for signs, and builder's first choice for poles and hardware. Furthermore, this motion requires that the PIPOA comply with all Coast Guard rules, regulations, and federal law. The above repair and replacement shall commence as soon as possible.
All right. Is there a second?
I second that.
How much?
Discussion. Just a minute.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I have a printout of that if anyone wants to read the letter. Just in case you're interested, and I'll see the proposal. And you're welcome to come and look at it.
Marta.
Obviously, this is very important and something that we have little time and need to get busy on in short order. I support this motion and believe that the costs are understandably based on replacing our remaining 26 approved markers. However, we currently have 36 markers in our channels, 10 of which are unauthorized and must be removed, which means the cost will be just slightly higher. So I would like to amend I support the proposal, but I would like to amend the proposal to increase the budget by $5,000 from $26,000 to $31,000, and that we review our action plan and the specs for the signage, poles, and so on to ensure that we are in full compliance with the Coast Guard as we submit the required applications so that we complete this project as rapidly and efficiently as possible.
Do you want to make an amendment?
Yes,
That's an amendment.
That's
That was an amendment. That's your
the
amendment.
amendment.
I second.
Second the amendment. All right. It's been moved, the amendment has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I accept the amendment.
All right. All in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right. Now we're back to the original proposal, the original motion, which includes the amendment. Any discussion? Yep,
Let's get this thing done.
indeed. This has been dragging out way too long, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to get this done.
We just voted on that, just with the amendment in it.
Yes,
So we're good.
well, we need to vote on it, including the amendment, though. All right? All right. So, we have a motion and an amendment before the table. All those in favor of the motion and with the amendment included, signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the amendment, the motion with the amendment passes. Very good. I think that takes care of that. Do we, let's go back to page 1.
You still got 10B, Martin, on the agenda.
10B.
B, PI employee and ballot board
Oh,
background check.
I'm sorry. Wow, busy night. Okay, number 10B, employee background checks.
Okay, so I have a motion for that. I think we've discussed it enough. So I move all current board members shall have a full and complete background check by December 11th, 2018. In the event that a board member has a criminal record that violates Texas state law or the PIPOA's bylaws, then that member must be removed from the board. Furthermore, all persons newly elected to the board must undergo a background check no later than 15 days after taking office. This new board member shall be subject to the same violations of Texas state law and the PIPOA's bylaws for removal.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Marta?
Hard time, please.
I think it's time. We've talked, you're right, we've talked about it enough. This is normal business practice. This is something that is here to protect our community from elements you don't want in sensitive positions. So absolutely, I think it's a great idea.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, call the question. All those in favor of the background motion, signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Vicki, we got anything else?
Yeah, we're still on that subject actually, because we
All
haven't
right.
talked about the employees,
Go ahead.
but that's just the board members.
I move all current employees of the PIPOA shall have a full and complete background check by December 11, 2018. In the event that the background check reveals inappropriate conduct from an employee of the PIPOA, then the employee shall be terminated from that position. It should be the responsibility of the executive director to determine if the inappropriate behavior constitutes a terminating offense. The executive director shall refer the matter to the full board for review and action. Furthermore, all persons to be hired shall have a background check completed prior to hiring.
I second that motion.
Discussion? Marta?
Again, this is normal business practice in an office.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All right, call the question. All those in favor of this motion for background checks of employees, signify by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I have another motion. Because we're throwing them out tonight.
We're getting it done here. Okay, go ahead.
I move that the board consult with an employment law attorney regarding background checks and removals. This motion includes developing a procedure to follow employment law as advised by an employment law attorney.
All right, motion. Second.
Second.
Second. Discussion. Nick? None. Marta?
Sounds fine to me.
Sounds good to me also. We do need to make sure that our employees are of the highest caliber, and we certainly don't want to run into similar problems we've had in the past. So,
You know, I think it's it's important that we get this documented for the future, because I think we've been making decisions over the years that have been very haphazard and no one documents how to do it, so it just gets lost when people leave.
Martin?
Something hit to me the other day, which is the town I came from has 1,081 people in their population. What we have here is a small city, and it's time that we run this with a higher level of professionalism, that we ensure fairness for every single person here, and that we take the duties of managing this community very seriously and put in networks and gather resources that will help us do that effectively for our members.
Thank
So
you.
I think it's
All
a
right.
good idea.
Any more discussion? Nick? All right. We'll call the question. All those in favor signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, I'm sorry, anybody opposed? Nobody opposed. All right, motion carries. Madam Secretary, anything else?
Okay, so we've just,
So we've just done section 10, section 11, sorry, 11 and then 10. So we did not receive any conflict of interest statements. We didn't ask, but
Let's go ahead and do that.
we'll go ahead and do that and follow from there.
We'll go on from there. Are there any conflict of interest statements from board members or employees?
no.
No, sir.
None? All right, presentations with possible board action. Auditor Jeff Smith. Jeff, you want to grab that podium and give us a report?
Can you hear me? Yeah. Excellent. Just had a few things I wanted to touch on. Some of the things we didn't talk about last meeting. We were covering kind of the overview and the initial. Looking back, there was a question brought to our attention of when the firm was actually engaged to do the audit. Back when we could find the final approval to do the audit was on June the 7th. We finally had the final approval to go ahead and start the audit. At that time, the PIPOA was notified that there would be a delay before the audit would actually start. It would start in August. The date the firm came on the site here at the PIPOA was August the 2nd. We came on originally to help assist with the bookkeeping work due to the loss of the bookkeeper. That process has been going on since day one that we've been here. It's been a large part of what's been taking place the first 2 months that we were on site. There were many issues that had to be addressed and resolved before we could move forward. So just wanted to let everybody know what we've been doing. Right now, our focus is on getting the audit completed. We have a tax return for 2017 that has to be filed by November 15th. So that is the focus. I just want to make sure everybody realizes that the audit that we're doing is for 2017. It is not anything to do with 2018. And currently, we're also doing a review of your transactions simultaneously with the audit. That review is also being done for 2017. Okay, so we're reviewing the records for that year. Once that review is completed, and depending on what is discovered during that review, we'll be notified if there are any other years that we are to look at. But right now, we are only focused on 2017. Once the audit is completed, we will issue an auditor's report that will give you all the findings of the audit. There will be no findings released regarding the audit until that is completed. Just to give you an update on the request of the PIPOA, I've been doing some extra work regarding the review of possible new software programs. So I've been helping them, assist them in asking questions regarding software. I've also been asked to assist in the interview process with the bookkeeper. So I've also been involved in those interviews as well. And just give you final current progress on where we're at. We determined right now, based on the current scope, that the audit is about 30% complete. And that our review of the 2017 books are about 65% complete. So that's where we're at.
All right, any questions from the board members?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Next on our agenda is Billish Park update, Dan Caballero, who I don't believe is here, but he has sent Veronica. Oh, that's what you look like. Yeah, we talked on the phone many times. All right.
Okay, we understand that there are some concerns with the weeds and other pests that began to grow.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
Use the mic, please.
Is it on?
Oh, it's not on.
Push the little button.
There we go. Okay, we understand that there are some concerns with weeds and certain pests that have began growth in the new Billish Park.
Could you speak a little louder? The gentleman and people in the back can't hear you. Get a little closer to the microphone. There you go.
Okay, just to touch on the weeds and the pests that are a concern right now that have started new growth within the park. There are many herbicides and chemicals that we use to treat and control weeds. They either fall into one or two categories of post-emergent or pre-emergent. Just to give you a little education, post-emergent treats weeds that have grown out, pre-emergent is for the weed seed only. Before we actually laid the sod, we had the ground treated with post-emergent to kill the weeds that were existing so we could lay new sod. After the new sod establishes a strong root system, we plan to use a pre-emergent to control weeds that have settled into the area and might settle on at a later time. New sod takes 6 to 12 weeks to establish a good, healthy root system. So the best course of action right now would be to mow once every 2 weeks. I believe we mowed yesterday, and then we'll do the next mowing within the following 2 weeks. The park should be ready for its pre-emergent treatment within the first weeks of November. Realistically, completing actual control over the weed system requires a series of seasonal treatments. Stickerbirds are a seasonal weed that germinates late spring and dies out in the fall months. So it's getting to that dormant stage where they're going to start disappearing. The best weed control is a good fertilization program to keep the turf grass thick and healthy. Once the brood starts to grow and vine together, what's going to happen is it's going to eliminate the amount of sunlight needed to reach those weeds so that way they can thrive in the environment. I've provided a copy of our fertilization and chemical treatment that we use for the Bermuda grass, and I posted copies at the back of the room in case anyone is curious. That is all.
I have a question. What was your last name, Veronica?
Valdez.
Thank you.
Questions?
I have one. Long term, how often do we need to mow to keep the stickerbirds out so we hit them before they get overrun?
The mowing isn't really for the stickerbirds. The mowing is for the establishment of the grass.
I see.
And to keep it treated. What's going to treat the stickerbirds is going to be the pre-emergent.
Ah, okay.
And then there's different types of chemicals you can use throughout the year. Some of them last 30 to 90 days. They're all included on the program that I provided.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. While we're on the subject, once the sod and landscaping is complete and our contract with Fox and Hanson Engineering is complete, then we are eligible to send the paperwork to the city of Corpus Christi for completion of the project and division of the funds, and we would get, of course, money that we fronted the city for this operation reimbursed to us. I don't anticipate that to be too far away, maybe another 30, 45 days, something like that. Once that's accomplished, then we enter a status called adoption of the park, which means the city controls the park and we have adopted the landscaping and the grass, which means we are responsible for taking care of the grass, the trees that were planted, all the vegetation that came with the project. The city is going to provide us a stipend to do this of around $14,700 a year, and the rest of it is up to us. Other matters in the park, like trimming palm trees, maintaining the basketball court, and other assorted items, is the responsibility of the city. Or by and large, we're responsible for the grass and trees that were planted. Landscaping items, that's what the contract called for. All right, so I've seen many kids out there playing in the new playground, and that's wonderful, isn't it? It was like birthing a baby to get that thing done. So, We're happy about that. Thank you, Brian.
The volleyball net?
Yes, Hanson has, at one of our previous meeting, volunteered to install volleyball poles and net. I assume they'll be forthcoming with that in the not too distant future. The contract's not finished yet, so I'm sure that will be coming. If not, I'm sure we can get it in their ear that they need to do that yet. All right, moving on.
ISAC.
ISAC, yes. We have received no report from our ISAC representative. Have we, Jim? I haven't gotten one. Stan Hulsey is our ISAC representative, and he's not forwarded us anything at this time. Moving on. Member comments. All right. I don't have the member sheet if someone would like to bring that up, and let's have the comments. No.
We came in after the fact, so we.
Want to sign up?
You didn't sign in.
Yeah, you can.
You can still
We'll give you a
sign in.
shot.
Sure.
Hi.
Yeah.
Ron Devers, 1579.
Stick it on the sheet.
Go
Wait,
sign it.
go sign in first. You're out of order. Wait your turn.
Did we get the shot to lock him up? No?
Yeah.
What about the tests? You mentioned tests, you never said anything about it. The gophers.
I didn't make up before.
I don't give my phone number.
All right.
You know,
Nope.
Can you bring the clipboard up and we'll start at the top?
No, I don't give email either.
oh, okay. What? Okay, is that it?
Bob, you want me to put just board stuff too?
Sure.
Okay.
What?
B-O-A-R-D.
Yeah.
Not B-O-R-E-D. He does that a lot.
Yeah.
Sure.
But if you want to speak, please, yes.
First speaker, you got to speak now.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they want that.
What's that?
He said the first speaker begin speaking, I said, I don't think that would be a problem.
Nick, you look very sharp tonight. All black, what are you doing?
Open black. Thank you.
The new Todd Hunter.
There you go.
Thank you, Matt.
Very well.
That's right for Johnny Cashman's team. All right, let's proceed. Henry Dornick.
You have a mic here, or we just talk
Up
about
there.
Podium over there.
Come on over to the podium if you wouldn't mind. We can hear you.
I guess you just heard. My name is Henry Dornick. My wife and I closed on our house on Halloween Day, so we haven't been here that long compared to some of y'all been here a long time. But we have a little town of El Campo, Columbus, Mint, and Monaga. But anyway, we driving up and down, we basically come in and we hit the light and we turn on Aquarius, which is a really nice paved road. Unfortunately, you turn off on Aquarius, you turn on Seahorse. And Seahorse had a bunch of cuts across it. So as the weeks and months went by, I figured, well, you know, cities can only come along and fix the roads and fix at least those that was a really bad part of Seahorse. Wife's got back problems. In fact, he has to run around with a little scooter in the my house, everything else, and that rough road was really bad. I kept waiting for it to be fixed and kept waiting, and nothing was happening. Finally it occurred to me, like, okay, idiot, why don't you just call the city and see what happens? This is the city of Corpus, we're just a community. So I called the city, I'll be darned, next day a guy called me and said, hey, we'll go ahead and look at, I told him about seahorse, and then also told him at Aquarius and Park Road, there was another whole development that started about a foot and 3 or 4 feet. He called me. 3 or 4 days later, they fixed it. I basically want to say, hey, that's pretty neat. So if you have some bad streets, if you don't call, it can go a year without them getting fixed. So I found out you call the city, they put a work order, in 3 days. You know, the day before it's it. Now the street needs to be repaved, it's rough and what have you, but that, at least they got, some of those dips were like 3 or 4 feet deep. Anyway, I just want to sort of add a voice to the street fair for Corpus. The other thing I wanted to talk about is that, I don't know how many of y'all are aware of, but how many general aviation airports you think the city of Corpus Christi, Padre Island, do we have? Anybody know? The gentleman back there said 0. It's exactly right. We have 0 general aviation airports for Corpus Christi. I come from Wharton, El Campo, which is a little 10,000 pops. We got an airport. Bay City's got an airport. In fact, I'll pass this board just for grins, because I got maybe a minute or 2. Here's a map. If you look at all those blue dots, those are airports. If you look at this book, both sides of that is full of Texas airports. The whole book is full of airports. But this town has no general aviation airports. I happen to fly. So I was interested, I guess, hey, what's general aviation airport Corpus? He said, there isn't any. Well, it doesn't sound like much to you guys, but when you have an airplane, they're costly to start off with. But anyway, I needed a hangar, and so go to the only airport you really got is commercial. And if they charge $1,000,
You got about 20 seconds.
Okay. Commercial wants $1,000 a month for hangar. Wharton, where I'm at, is $180. Everybody talks about, all your politicians are talking about improvement, economics, what have you. Why can't Corpus Christi, or what have you? There's 2 solutions real quick. One, you've got the place to build here on the island, you can build an airport, expensive. Better one is convert the Navy airstrip or Walden, went ahead to a general aviation airport. It's already there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next on the list, Nancy Tressa.
Good evening, folks. I'm here for 3 reasons, 3 points. Number 1, due to my fact that I was out of town and missed the deadline, having my name affixed to the response letter that was written by several people, I want to go on public record in complete support of every fact that was in that letter that was printed in the Moon and also on next door. Again, I want to go on public record saying that I want my name out there with those facts. I had a second point that I was going to talk about, but as I sat here and watched the proceedings this evening, I think my second point dropped off the radar. It's very disturbing that when you come into a meeting that the agenda that was published is not followed. Makes you kind of wonder what's going on. And then as I watch the proceedings, it seems very obvious that this meeting was very scripted and ran by your president, Mr. Jones. This is not Mr. Jones's POA. This is the community's POA. And I think there's a great many supporters of Mr. Jones in this room tonight, but I think there's many, many more people out there that need to start waking up a little bit and not swallowing so much, and maybe, I hate to use the word Kool-Aid that's being distributed, but I am of the mind that when I listen, I want to watch people. So I really hope, and Mr. Editor of the newspaper, I hope you can encourage people to come to these meetings and see for themselves what's happening to our POA. Okay? Third point, you're going to see me leave prior to the meeting being over, and that's because I have another meeting that I want to attend. I am not leaving out of anger, so I don't want that leaving to be misconstrued. And you will be seeing me at future meetings, because I want to see what's going on, in addition to hearing. And we can't always listen to the social media. Thank you.
Next on the list is Fox Tree and Landscaping. They've done their report, I guess. All right. Ron Jeffers.
Ron Jeffers, 15701 Escapade. Just want to take this opportunity to thank the board for this opportunity to speak in front of you. Unlike previous boards, that was rarely an option. We know which board we're talking about. Secondly, thank you for being at the head of the pack on this background check thing. I know when I said it and recommended it to the original board, the previous board, last spring, I was guffawed and laughed off the stage because I didn't think it was really important, but of course that's before they found out that they had hired a felon for a bookkeeper. Also before they found out that they had hired a computer repair guy who got kicked out of the Air Force Academy for cheating on a computer test. These are not the kind of people you want to have access to PIPOA data, okay? One, the person that was let go for felonies involving identity theft and stealing personal information and misusing it. The same thing was allowed of the computer guy. He was given full access to all the PIPOA systems, which contained all of your personal information, our personal information. The previous board allowed it. They deemed necessary that he should jump in and fix something before he got checked out. This is not the way to do business. So that brings me to my last point. I would like the board to, in addition to a full set of standard office policies, I would like them to put together a policy regarding third-party contracts, wherein they have to provide that they have bonds or insurance, or they're willing to undergo a background check, or all the above before they do business with us. Because I don't feel safe, based on our history with the former board, that we can rely on people's word saying that they're good people. Thank you.
Kelly McFadden.
Kelly McFadden, 15606 3th Avenue, Spain. In 1996, my husband Jim and I bought our first home on the island as a vacation home. We were a family of yours, mine, and ours, and bought a lot of plane tickets to fly down with kids for holidays and to occasionally escape a cold Nebraska winter. In 2010, we made it permanent. And since then, in addition to our personal residence, we also own 5 rental properties, all situated in the PIPOA. For the most part, we were blissfully unaware of the PIPOA. We would get the yearly statement and an occasional newsletter. We never gave it much thought. Then came 2016 and the ill-conceived attempt at a compliance program, followed by a series of additional events that made us stand up and take notice. I attended my first board meeting in February 2017, the meeting which resulted in a questionable ballot inclusion decision. It concerned us, and we started talking to other members. In April of 2017, we founded our community Facebook page, Island Issues. I started live streaming and filming PIPOA meetings. I've written multiple opinion pieces online in the mood. I have read our bylaws, covenants, years of board meeting minutes, and Texas Code 209 to the point where I can repeat sections verbatim. Also, I can better understand our governance and the law. In November 2017, myself, along with my husband and Carl Rubenstein, announced the Arch Initiative. By giving the PIPOA members the opportunity to vote, we returned our bylaw amending rights back to where they belonged, solely with the homeowners. I supported President Jones in his election in 2017, and I supported Vice President Sprout, Treasurer Pelosi, Secretary Marsden in their recent elections. I have not agreed with every decision they have made, but I will continue to support their overall leadership. Much work has been done this year, but there's still much more to do. And with an election coming up, I've asked myself, what do I want to see in a candidate? I want someone who can understand and follow the law. I want a fiscal conservative who will watch our checkbook like it is their own. I want an informed membership, which requires a level of openness so far unachieved, though it is better. These are simple yet important items that I am willing to work for. So today, I'm announcing my candidacy for the upcoming PIPOA.
All right, next, Bob Algio. Hey, Bob.
Hi, Bob Algio, 1569 3000 Bank Drive. I was gonna, if we were gonna just talk at the beginning of the meeting, I was gonna say, please hire this new attorney, Mr. Cagle. Got that done. And I was also gonna say, please get those proxies off the ballot as far as the names of the board members being associated with the proxies. You were asking about, aren't there still going to be proxies? Yeah, they're going to have a blank spot for proxy. You can write somebody's name in as a proxy. You could write a board member's name in. You could write whoever's name in for that. So that's going to be great. And what a smooth meeting, and how well this meeting went. It seems like the biggest complaint lately that I see and read about is, can't we stop all this arguing in our POA? Can't we get people to get along? And that's the way this meeting went tonight. I would fully support, I will fully support Ms. McFadden as a board member candidate, and I also am declaring my candidacy to run for the board. I sent an email to Mr. Schmock just before the meeting, and I'll follow that up with my resume publications. Thank you.
All right, next, Jim McFadden.
Jim McFadden, 15606 3000 Bank Drive. Not quite 2 years ago, when Kelly and I first became active in the community, we got involved with the organization and volunteering for Marta Sprout's writing candidacy. And through that process, I got to start to meet some wonderful people, many are in this room. But I also had the privilege of meeting Vicki Marsden for the first time, and found her to just be this wonderful person with this really cool, unusual, confused, distracting Texas accent. When she decided to run for the board in 2017, Kelly and I got very, very involved, helping her any way we could. And I had the opportunity to sit down with Vicki for hours while we prepared some videos that we were producing. And in it, she told me she wasn't running for the PIPOA, she was running for the PIPOA, which was the fun bus. And so I wanted to be the first to go on record to say, you will certainly be missed. I wish you all the luck. I wish you a speedy return. But you know me, I want you to, wherever you are, I want you to throw an extra shrimp on the Barbie, because I may knock on your door and stop by for a visit.
Absolutely.
Congratulations. Thank you for all you do. Good luck in the future.
Thank you,
All right,
At least you didn't say Mrs. Okay. Joel McGuire, I live on the island. How are you? All right, I'm not carrying a Bible, but a great book, A Prisoner's Perspective, The Redemption of a Criminal Mastermind by our fellow Islander. Read it, get it. Mike Savage, all right? Please read it. He's a great author. It's his personal testimony, spending 15 years in prison for what he did, and he found God. Let me read a passage, okay? God is more powerful than the federal government. He knows everything, and nothing can be hidden from him. His conviction rate for the unsaved is 100%. Without forgiveness and grace, there's no hope for them. They have no defense, only a short and certain sentence. Why is this pertinent for me to bring this up? Because you know what? March of 2017, I heard of so much corruption going on. $100,000 trying to be funneled to the school over there, all right? Poor management of POA duties. Sandpit, $68,000 volleyball court. $500,000 going to source contracting to one of the board members who was the president. If that's not corruption, okay, maybe by federal law, I'm not an attorney, but damn, is it the right thing to do? I know one thing, two things for sure. We're all gonna die. I may die tonight, you may die tonight, you may get cancer. But I tell you what, when it comes to the day, we're gonna think to ourselves, did I do all the things that I need to do to be a good human being? Did I? And you know what? That last minute, we may die in peace. Otherwise, it's going to be a miserable, painful death. And I know for a fact, things have not been done right. I want to thank Marvin and the new board members here. I don't drink Kool-Aid. They have the same scrutiny as prior board members years before, when Brett was leading the POA. Same criteria. No one gets a free pass. We're not stupid. We're not. No one gets a free pass. What is right? What is wrong? Integrity. By damn, I will do my very best to make sure new board members, the 2 seats that's coming up, good people are elected. I will fully support them. Because you know what? I'm all about integrity. I know many of you are as well. And without playing games, without being childish, this is a serious matter. Because you know what? It comes to money. Always money. Money breeds corruption and egos. And that's what I've seen so much of. And I'm tired of it. I don't want to waste my time coming here. All of you love politics and dealing with this crap. You know what? I got work to do. I got kids to raise, you know, and I need to become a better human being. I'm working on that. But some people still don't get it. They got their head stuck up you know where. They need to look in the mirror and ask themselves, am I a good person? Can I die peacefully?
All right, next up is, looks like Susan. Greg?
No, it was crossed out, that one.
Oh, that one's crossed out. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. No wonder I can't read it. All right. Brian McCabe. Susan. Are you Susan? No.
Oh, I crossed it.
Yeah, you crossed it out.
You crossed it out. All right. There we go. All right.
I saw it.
Okay, hi, I'm Brian McCabe. I live at 13789 Foxnest Bay, and thank you, Marvin, for putting the background checks up front, because I didn't have anything to say until y'all did that. I commend you for the employees. I think you've outlined a very good procedure. You have a background check. You bring it to the board discusses. That's great. But when you come to board members, I think, like it or not, it's settled law in Texas. We can vote for crooks if we want to. That came back to Papio Daniel and Maul Ferguson. Supreme Court said, if you know and you still are going to elect them, elect them. Also, it's somewhat confusing and recognize recognizing that we have a deadline in November 15th for filing on the board, but you have December 11th to get the current board member. But what happens if the prospective board member is in fact elected? It's confusing. And to a certain extent, I feel it's disenfranchising to say that someone cannot run for the board because they violated Texas law. Me, I'm not worried about it. I'm a 43-year attorney. I've been background checked. You know, I couldn't drive 55, so yeah, I violated Texas law. I've had some quarrels with the toll authority on my toll bills. I had to pay some fines. I violated Texas law. I think you would be well advised on one of the other motions to talk to an employment lawyer, particularly when it comes to elected position. Employees, I'm all for it. Elected position, don't disenfranchise my right to pay for that, to vote for that crook, if I know he's a crook. That's all.
Christine Gallegos? Gallegos?
I'm not in the right place. I need variance.
Oh, no, this is not the time for variance. Are you asking for a variance?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
okay,
what-
that comes at the very end of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else want to have to say? Like once, twice? All right. Next on the agenda, President's comments. Let me start with this comment right off the bat, Brian. State of Texas law prohibits a board member from having a felony within the last 20 years. Texas state law prohibits a board member from having a crime of moral turpitude within the last 20 years. All this amendment does is echo state law. Okay? Heretofore, you wouldn't know if someone had a felony conviction because you don't do a background unless it appears somehow. So we're simply taking steps to comply with state of Texas law.
Martin, you addressed me by name, so I'd like to respond. The motion didn't say felony or moral turpitude within the last 20 years. It said violation of Texas law.
I believe that's the same thing. All right, thank you. Moving on, Board of Directors vacancy. Well, I think we all know that the board's sweetheart, Vicki, is leaving us. What's the effective date, Vicki?
The 30th. I
30th of
resigned the
October.
30th.
All right.
My house closes on the 31st, but I don't know what time yet, so.
All right. So here's the procedure for the board to fill Vicki's seat. All right. First of all, the board will have to take applications and probably do some interviewing as a board. Okay? Then someone gets to be appointed to that seat to fill the seat until the end of that seat's term, which in this case will be almost 2.5 years. Okay? That is state law also.
Correct.
Okay. Vinyl fences, write-offs, sales tax, and earnings shall not inure. All right. I want to read something here from the Articles of Incorporation for our PIPOA. Article 4 addresses this topic. The corporation is not organized and shall not operate for pecuniary gain or profit. The corporation is not authorized to provide exterior maintenance to private residences. No part of the property of the corporation and no part of its earnings shall inure to the benefit of any director or private individual. The corporation shall never be authorized to engage in a regular business of a kind ordinarily carried on for profit in any activity except in furtherance of the purpose stated above for which the corporation is organized, nor shall the corporation engage in any activity which is not permissible for organizations except from taxation described in section 501c4 of the Internal Revenue Code as amended. That's a mouthful, isn't it? All right. It has been brought to the board's attention that there may be some violations of this article and our nonprofit status. I'm not going to go into details on each one of these things, vinyl fences, sales tax for lot mowing, write-offs, and so on. But I can assure you that the board will begin to enter into a review of these matters to see if we have, in fact, violated any of our articles of incorporation, if we have violated our agreement with the IRS to be a not-for-profit organization. So you can expect to hear more about that in the future. It may take a little time, but we will settle this issue. All right, moving on, Executive Director report, Mr. Schmock.
Well, good evening, everyone. All you are well. Please don't leave on my account. Take me with me, please. I have 10 things I would like to discuss tonight, and I promise it doesn't sound nearly as bad as 10 things sound. When Jeff gave his comments, our auditor, he talked about bookkeeper. I expect to have a bookkeeper on board by November 1st if all goes well, including a background check, criminal background check, and all that goes into that. The next position, the administrative assistant, I'm hoping to have probably by the end of the first week in November, again assuming that background checks are, in this case, negative, meaning that there is nothing there. The bookkeeper, both of these positions are important. Jeff has left, but the bookkeeper, I think, in my opinion, of the two is the most important. The association, as you well know more than I, has been without a bookkeeper for some time. That has caused, among other things, I don't want to emphasize that it's all the bookkeeper's fault or anything along those lines, but not having a bookkeeper and things that are alleged to, and are hearsay to me at least, to have occurred, need to be addressed. We need to undo certain things before we can start doing certain things. And for people who have expressed concern about our finances, particularly access to financial data, an income statement, a balance sheet, etc., having that bookkeeper on board, or in place, being trained by Jeff in part, by me in part, and learning as he or she goes, will I hope begin to address some of those issues. So that's staff. I was going to talk about background screening, but the board stole my thunder, so I'll skip over that. I can tell you that my plan was that any new paid staff person, part-time or full-time, will go through a background check. There are a variety of background check agencies out there. Most are online, where they give a cursory review of databases that are provided by governmental entities. So you're only checking information as good as the person who provides it. Those run about $30. For $125, there is a firm, and thank you, Marvin, for bringing this to my attention, in Corpus Christi, that not only uses a database, but they have 3 private investigators, or PIs, in the nomenclature, that check for civil litigation, that check for other matters that could speak to someone's character, someone's credibility, someone's veracity, etc. So that is staff and background checks. While I'm on this page, the association is joining an entity called CAI, which stands for Community Associations Institute. This is an international organization, actually. It is the trade association / advocacy group for POAs, HOAs, condominium owners associations. CAI develops a list of what they call best practices for these entities, as well as management companies who oversee these entities. So I think that the board, all board members are going to join CAI as board members. I am joining as a manager. Anyone can join. If you're interested, just Google Community Associations Institute, and you're more than welcome to join. But as I said, they provide great continuing education. There are opportunities to interact with other similarly situated professionals, be they managers, board members, or homeowners, as well as those vendors that provide a variety of services to those entities. Employment lawyers, HOA lawyers, construction firms, etc. We are somewhat disadvantaged in Corpus Christi because the closest chapter is San Antonio, so we're a little bit out in the sticks from that point of view. But with the internet, with phones and all of that, we can stay very much in touch. And speaking of that, I spoke with you in September about software, both our internal software, Microsoft Office, emails, all of those kinds of fun things, the website, as well as the bigger issue of property management software, which allows us to administer the POA by tracking accounting, tracking workflows, tracking member accounts, knowing who lives where, how long they live there, basic information like that. I don't think it's any secret that the present system, which is TOPS, T-O-P-P-S, is antiquated. To that, I received, and I've had Marvin Jones has been in on this as well, along with our auditor, Jeff, as well as one of our staff people in the office. We received 3 presentations from 3 vendors of this property software management systems. These systems are a little bit like cell phone plans. There's a lot of similarities between them or among them, but there are a few differences. And so determining what those differences are, what the similarities are, and how they best serve the association is going to be an intense task. One way to hopefully get some better education on this is there is an association in San Antonio called the Great Northwest. Obviously, whoever named it was not good at geography. The Great Northwest Community Improvement Association. That's a mouthful. They are a similarly situated organization to the POA. They have some 5,000 homeowners. They also oversee basketball courts, a community center, 2 swimming pools, 4 tennis courts, and a variety of other common elements. This organization, as I said, it's our size. It also uses the most upgraded version of TOPS. So I have spoken with the community manager, who is essentially my counterpart at the Great Northwest Community Improvement Association, and I'm just waiting for a day that Marvin and I can go, spend a day there, looking at TOPS and how TOPS is used in action, particularly in workflow. From the point where a homeowner says, I have a problem with a bulkhead, as an example, and how that problem is addressed, how the vendor bills us, how we pay the vendor, and then how we preserve that history in case it becomes an issue months or even years down the road. So Marvin and I are going to take a field trip probably in the first part of November. As to what I mentioned a moment ago about the Microsoft Office technology, what we're mostly familiar with, we retained a company, Corpus Christi Info Technology, to come in, look at our systems, both our hardware and our software. We're going to be upgrading our software. Presently, most of the software is outdated, including our ability to receive and send emails and do some other routine things that anybody here who sits in front of a computer a few hours a day would take probably for granted. So we're going to upgrade that software so that we can more efficiently work in the office and ultimately serve our clients, who are you and the rest of the homeowners. Let's see. Payroll has been outsourced. We discussed that a little bit, I believe, at the September 25th meeting. Just sort of rolling here along, the fall newsletter was mailed today. It's been mailed bulk rate, so probably within a week all of you should have that, so please look for that. That has information pertaining to, most for the board and what you need to do to file. One suggestion I might make is that for elections that take place in 2020, that a standard application form be developed by the board in conjunction with me and the staff so that we streamline applying for running for the board. Caballero, everybody's favorite subject, and mine. You know the condition of Caballero. My thanks if he's still here. He was here. Brian, are you still here? Thank you, Brian. Brian developed an RFP back in the summer to essentially repair Caballero. Brian came by and asked me today, did I need anything further from him, which I thought was very gracious, so thank you, Brian. And Brian and I agree that we need engineering before we send out any RFPs or RFQs, whatever terminology you want to use, so that we make sure that we have a set of standards by which the contractor, whoever it is, who's chosen by the board, again, has those standards in which to work. So I've contacted 3 engineering firms. Voss Engineering said no. Ash Engineering wants to charge us $5,400. I want to know what are you going to do for $5,400. The estimate was very, very thin. And then finally there is a CASA Engineering that wants to charge $100 just to come out and take a look, but it may be worth it. I want to see what their estimate is and what they were willing to provide once they get out here. Once we have an engineering estimate, the board then can look at that, decide if it wants to accept, reject, or perhaps modify that estimate, and then we can go about the RFP process. The building itself, the office building. First day I walked into the office on September 5th, Marvin said hi, hello, got me a cup of coffee, and then showed me the inure waterfall. It was the back wall. And I have to say, I've never seen an indoor waterfall before, at least not by not design, let me put it that way. So the wall needs to be repaired. As you can imagine, with water and humidity, and more water, even more humidity, you get mold. So we've had a mold assessment done. I learned very quickly that there's a process. You have someone come in and test for mold. That person then takes that result and goes to a mold remediation specialist, who actually is the person who removes the mold. Then the first person comes back and tests the air and surfaces if applicable to see if the mold was removed. And then and only then can you actually fix the wall. So it is a process, as you can imagine. So we've had the assessment done. The assessment came back and said we did have some mold. There may be some residual mold in the air, but it is at acceptable levels. But if I'm working in that office, or people are working in that office, I want no mold if I can help it. So we are going to bring in air scrubbers. We are going to have the air conditioning ducts and registers cleaned throughout the building so that we're not blowing mold around. And then once we have a sample taken again, we can begin to repair the wall. And that will regain space that we very much need, especially if we're going to hire 2 staff people, because where do we put these 2 people? So that is the issue of the building. Let's see. What have I left out? My goodness, I think I got through my list. So thank you very much for your time. I have business cards now. I didn't have those at the last meeting, so they are in the back table. Please feel free to take one, email me, call me. I can give you my email address again. It's jim@pipoa.net, and I do read all emails. I may not respond if it doesn't require a response to all emails, but I do read all emails, and I do keep them in mind. So thank you very much for your time. I know the World Series is about to start, so Marvin, I will turn it back to you.
Great job.
I'd like to compliment Jim on his excellent report tonight and pitching in with both hands to tame the waterfall. All right, moving on now to the consent agenda, which consists primarily of the secretary's minutes from the previous board meeting.
Okay, so there I have one minor change, which was just an error. I had Carter making the motion and then voting against it, which was not correct. So I need to take that off. He did vote for it. Other than that, as long as we're good with the minutes, I might take them out last week for everyone's review.
Did the minutes contain the information from the email vote?
No.
No. Well, then we're not able to approve it tonight.
What did the email vote on?
Well, I've kind of forgotten as well. We'll have to do some homework.
Okay.
So we cannot approve those minutes because state law requires us to include that in the next.
I'm not sure that if there was an email vote that we put that in there.
Yep.
And then send it out to the board.
All right. Committee reports. Compliance Committee, Alan Rickardson, Chair. I don't see him here. Is anyone here to give a report? I think he will stand on his minutes from their meeting, and that'll be online if anybody wants to read it on the website. Next, Architectural Control Committee. Tom Cable, do you have a report? I believe he does.
Thank you.
We get envelopes this time.
Is this our Christmas present?
Oh,
Is it money?
There's a minutes from our last meeting on October 18th. We would look at those.
Oh, it's a bonus.
Yeah, if you'd open it and go through the minutes of October 18th. Okay, usually you wouldn't provide minutes this close to the meeting, but trying to be active to get things done. As we know, there's only one more board meeting, December 11th, and so we've been trying to get things moving. There's some interesting things in these minutes for October the 18th. The first item I look like is that the agenda items, and we've made some motions, and you'll see the red word moved on these. And one of these things that we found was there's some Article 42 in the Board Policy Manual for strange reason. And basically it's about moorings, and it's a valid, good mooring rule for garden lots. It's still active, but nobody knew about it because it was buried in the board policy manual. So we're asking permission, or we're recommending that the board allow us to move that into the ACC document. So that's a recommendation. Not long ago, a couple months ago, we submitted a lot of rule revisions. Some of these are very short, simple rules. Some of them having to do with safety, very minor things. One of them having to do with the new city code. But we've heard nothing from the board in regard to that. And so the board, by motion, asked me to simply ask the board to let us know what happened to these revisions. And we're not asking for that right now, but if, someone could contact us at some point, we'd be happy to know what's going on with that. I'd like to skip F and go on to G. We had a meeting with Greg Smith, a city councilman, and he said he would support this if he was reelected. But what this is that it used to be that the city, before it could process an application for a project or a house, had to have an ACC approved application before they could proceed. For some reason, that's reversed. And that is causing us lots of grief because we're finding a lot of projects and houses even being constructed without a POA permit, without permission. And so if we could have this, it would solve it. So if the board would write a letter to the city, which is what we're requesting, and also make this a high priority, prevent building without a permit by talking to the city, if we could get that done, that would be solve a lot of our problems for the architectural committee, and it would be a really great thing for the POA. simpler. The board, the ACC thinks it's a good idea to kind of split our function into me being the administrative person, handling writing things and minutes and so forth, and Robert Pruski is in a leadership position. And we think that dividing responsibilities in the committee helps to strengthen the committee, and then also if you lose somebody strategic, it's not as critical. And in fact, in the future, we may be spreading our duties out somewhat further than right now. So the ACC is asking the board to reappoint Robert Pruski as the chair. I would like to point out item I, which was really interesting, where the city council is considering raising the level of our foundation's height up to as much as 2 feet. Problem with that is that that's going to be great for our FEMA rate for the whole community if that happens, because all of our FEMA rates will go down for the entire community. And of course, it's an advantage to the individual homeowner. The downside is that all the houses being built then will be 2 feet taller. And if you do it the conventional way, by building up the land, the homes that are lower will be affected with drainage problems. So what will happen is we'll have to have homes that have exposed foundations that are about 2 feet taller, and maybe they can be landscaped or something like that, or stucco. But probably, I'm just giving you a heads up, that's probably the way it will go if it happens. So it's just something to start thinking about, and that's why I wanted it to be in the minutes, especially for the board. And finally, you know, I'd like to get to our last recommendation, and I'd also like to discuss why we moved this up. We have been working through the ACC document in kind of an orderly fashion. The first time we proposed some things to get things into place, which is the original part of the document that kind of discusses the function and purpose of the ACC and so forth. And then there were some short recommendations that we thought were kind of an emergency basis, either for safety or something. And so we were planning to just proceed through the document from beginning to end. But recently, there's a strategic street that everybody's aware of, Gypsy Street, which has some really bad parking problems. And they've accelerated a great deal just within the past few months. So Gypsy is a strategic street. And one thing, from the PO building, you can see it. From Billish Park, you can see it. It affects the property values of all the ports of call, because that's the entrance to those subdivisions. So if that street looks bad, it affects the property values of those areas. So basically, what we observed is originally there were parking problems that started at the end of Billish Park with a house that had 4 cars parked in the yard, on grass, on landscaping. And recently it's evolved, where there's been 2 buses, commercial buses parked in a row in one house. And then a house close to that, there's been 2 large commercial trailers. One of them's about 35 foot long. It's an enclosed utility trailer, kind of like a big horse trailer, and kind of what I would call a roofing trailer, utility type trailer with commercial markings on it. And so this situation's gotten worse and worse. So currently, between White Cap on Gypsy and Encantada, there are 34 houses. Of these, 13 have these parking problems, and involves 18 vehicles. And so I just want to go through this and then I'm done. And then everybody can go through the World Series. But I want you to understand why we're doing it. At one house, there's a black pickup parked in the rock, one at an angle on the rock. Another house, there's 2 motorized vehicles, cars in the rock, and they're paralleling the sidewalk. One's parked on either side of the front sidewalk, which is very strange. There's the 2 commercial buses that I mentioned. There's a pickup truck that's parked directly in front of their door, so they can't open the door. They're using it as a security measure to prevent people from getting in their house. It's just parked right in front of the front door. There's the 2 utility trailers that I just mentioned, and these are very new arrivals. There's a boat trailer that could be parked behind the building line. The way this house is that they don't have side property line fence on one side. They can park behind the building line. Instead, they park in front of one of their main windows, just sitting in the rock. There are 4 cars that I mentioned before. This is the original infection, in my opinion. This is house at the end of Billish Park, towards the north end of Billish Park. There's 4 cars parked in the grass. One is parallel in the easement, which is against the covenants. There are, at the entrance of Hawk's Nest and the entrance of Eagle Nest, there are 2 houses that are right at the entrance to these streets that lead to these subdivisions, and all those streets back in there. One of them is parking 2 cars in the rock, parallel to the street. The next one has a SUV that's parked, doesn't have a license plate, it's parked in the rock. Next house has a Mercedes parked in the rock, just showing that it doesn't matter who you are and how much money you have. You can be an equal opportunity block parker. There's a now infamous vehicle that's on the corner of Gypsy Street and Hawk's Nest, and it now has some additions. You know, it's a 6-wheeled, used to be an emergency beach vehicle, and now just recently the owner has added a structure on top of it to where it's now 14 foot tall of rusted metal. So it's just gotten to be crazy, and especially in the past few months. In addition, I've gone around and looked and seen that there are more RVs, and I'll be giving a survey on that pretty soon. And then also there's a Toyota SUV that is now parking on White Calf, on the south side of White Calf.
You started by compliance.
South side of White Calf, in between the curb and the fence. In other words, it's actually kind of what would be in a common area. So it's just gotten to the point of being crazy. So therefore, we have written and approved and recommend to the board a parking regulation that we'd like you to look at. So we're asking you to submit that to the board that you should take a peek at it. And so we appreciate that, but I wanted you to understand why we moved that one up in our agenda instead of just working through the document. I appreciate your time and may your team win.
All right, thank you, John. Okay, moving on, canals and waterway minutes. Bill Sargent,
Just a minute.
minutes will stand. Very good. Item number 9 on the agenda, treasurer's report. Nick Pelosi.
In your package, you have the monthly report. Okay. Your monthly report is routine expenses, nothing large, nothing is coming to date. But what I would like to do is to make a motion to close the checking account at QBS. That will consolidate all our checking to American Bank. That will also allow us to proceed with more electronic banking, and instead of having 2 separate accounts, which are very reconciled.
A motion before the board, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second discussion. I would like to say that the board used to have 5 checking accounts. And now we're down to 2, and this is going to bring us down to, we're down to 3. Now we're going to be down to 2. Having 2 checking accounts makes operating the business a lot simpler. Our CPA has recommended this. Money's not going anywhere, it's just going to be in one particular account. We will have one for the operating account and one for the builder's account. Builders bring us deposits, fees, that kind of thing, and it goes into a separate account for those folks versus our general operating account. This is a good thing. As you heard Jim say earlier, we've managed to put all of our employees now on electronic payroll in that they get direct deposit. We've crawled into the 21st century here. All right. So I'm in favor of this motion. Anybody else?
Question.
Question. Call the question. Sorry, that's scary. I'm calling the question. All in favor of the motion to consolidate to the one checking account. Signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Mr. Treasurer? That's all. Thank you. We've completed old business, new business. We're down to executive session. Before we go into that, I believe we have someone interested in the variance, but unfortunately, the board doesn't know anything about this.
It's actually written in that packet. I just read it there.
Well, we didn't know anything before that. Just a moment. Tom, are you familiar with the variance?
Yes, yeah.
I think you gave, when I read it, it said that you guys approved it, no, but you're waiting for us to approve, no? Which section is it, Tom? Yes, please.
Yeah, please, we don't
Yeah.
know what anything about it, so.
Yeah, I was just trying to read it a minute ago.
Come on up here, Chris.
Okay.
This is a long-standing issue, and this is Chris Gallegos, and she's with Lone Star Construction, and she has a deck that she wants to have a variance for. And the thing about this is kind of an example of the catch-22 that the ACC has had now for years, and so has the board, which is when someone comes to us and legitimately requests to do something, often they're denied. But if they build it without a permit, nothing ever happens to that permit. Nothing happens to that project. In other words, they just build it, they do it. So along Caballero Street, which is on a large canal, their mooring line is restricted to only 10 feet, which is really weird for that wide a canal, because the normal for a wide canal is 15, okay? So that's the normal. And so, of course, everybody wonders why that is. So the thing about it is everyone, including me, would think the reasonable thing would that to be 15 feet like every other thing, but you can't do anything about it because of the covenants. Now, in this case, there's a house next to the house that Chris is interested in that does have a 15-foot dock, but it has a variance. But prior to 1992, the board, the ACC, could actually go against the covenants if they thought it was in the community interest. So this variance of this person next door is valid because it was prior to 1992. After 1992, the ACC cannot grant any variance that violates a subdivision covenant. And there's some good reasons for that. In other words, it's not all bad, you know, it makes sense. But in this case, it's one of those cases where it doesn't make any sense. So if you look at Google Earth and you look along Caballero, you'll see all these illegal, quote, docks and also boat lifts. In other words, you put in a 10-foot boat dock and then they'll add a 10-foot wide aluminum boat lift to the outside of it, or you'll see extensively large docks. And so the committee must obviously, because it violates the covenant and it's not prior to 1992, we cannot approve the variance request. There's no peculiar hardship. It would have to be a new rule. In other words, we can't do a variance on that basis, and of course we can't grant a variance because it's against the covenants, okay? So what we're saying is, we're not trying to put the board on the spot, but we're always on the spot. So let me put it this way. There's a lady on Mingo Key, okay? She's on Mingo Key, which is just right there. I mean, you can throw a rock and hit it. They have the 10-foot mooring line. Lady Debbie, and I think the last name Debbie Banks, she comes up to me and says, hey, I wanna extend my dock past the mooring line. I say, well, Debbie, you can't do that. And she takes me out back, and here's two houses right next to her that have 15 feet. You know, I don't know if they were done prior to 1992, don't know. But if they weren't, it makes it a really tough situation to be a POA ACC member and have to tell people that try to get permission, no, you can't do it, and people that don't get permission that they can. So basically, I'm saying we need to just do something about this principle in general. The ACC cannot possibly grant this variance for the two reasons I mentioned, but I am referring it to the board, and I'm basically in support of her position. Wouldn't it be wonderful if Caballero could have 15-foot mooring lines? It'd be great. But
so this isn't the one on Benassi?
No.
Got in the packet?
No, we already did that. Vacancy was granted because it was a garden.
Oh, okay.
And I believe Caballero is also a garden.
it is a garden lot.
Which is the 50 feet.
It's 10 foot in their case in the covenants. In other words, that one, that's a weird one.
Right.
Most of the garden lots are 15, this is 10, and that's the subdivision covenant. So, you know, that's part we're kind of here. I don't see how you can grant the variance, but I do feel like that something needs to be done to make it equitable for people that seek, like Chris is, to do it the right way versus people that just build things without a permit. So that's my comment. Any questions for me?
No. What? No, sorry folks, you don't get to ask a question. Personally, I don't know enough about this to make a good informed decision. I would like to carry this over to the next meeting or sometime in the near future so that we as a board can understand what the problem is. Tom, do you have any issue with that?
No, except I'll write you a paper on that, and I'll send it to you because you'll have it in writing exactly what all the problems are. And I'll write you a whole problem with the mooring situation, the whole 9 yards, so you'll be educated in it. But it's really an issue of what are we going to do now? For Chris's perspective, if she doesn't get a variance, which I don't think she can, but she would have a time crunch issue, and of course you should speak to it because obviously she won't get to build this the way that the owner would like. But I don't necessarily think that should happen. In other words, I don't think that you can grant a variance here. But in the long term, we certainly should think about doing something, either having people remove their things that are illegal, or somehow moving those mooring lines. So that's my thought.
Well, I don't speak for everybody, but I don't believe we have enough information either on the bigger picture or her particular situation to make an intelligent decision here tonight. Anybody agree or disagree with that?
I agree with that. Look at it. Mark.
Yeah, it seems to me that, obviously you brought this issue forward, but it seems to me we need to look at the bigger picture of that whole channel or subdivision or whatever. And I agree, I don't have enough information right now, but I think it makes a lot more sense to look at the big picture at the same time and just get the facts and make a good decision for everybody.
All right, how about we have Tom get back with you after we get time to take a look at it and see what we're going to do.
Okay, is there anything that you need from me? I mean, this has been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. I mean,
well, this is the first we've heard of it.
Right, and
Could you write down your information?
I contacted Heather. Well, me and Heather have been working on it, and she said that she was going to go ahead and send everything that you guys needed, so that way we could do this. So
we just got this packet
right.
Tom a minute ago. So.
Right.
Very good. Thank you for your patience with us. We'll try to get this resolved and make a decision here. All right. Moving on.
Executive session.
One more thing. We have no executive session then because the variance has been put off here. I do have something else to say, however. At the last board meeting, a question arose regarding me receiving 2 reimbursement checks. You were here last time, you heard that. Sometime back, we were late on paying our water bill to the city. Anybody have trouble with their water bill? Well, so does the POA. So, in order to keep this already, I did. Yeah. I'm making a point here. Okay. Drove downtown, paid the water bill with my check and advanced the POA loan. You're welcome. In addition to that, the Nueces County, I paid $67 to file the new bylaws after the Arch election, okay, and got reimbursed for that. That money went to the county. All right. In addition, while in HEB, we had, let me back up, prior to me going to HEB to buy groceries with my dear wife, we decided that our compliance guys needed some shirts that would make them look uniform. So I found shirts there for $16 a shirt. You try to find a shirt for 16 bucks out there. So I bought them with my credit card and received reimbursement. The total of those 3 items is $316.24. Okay? If anybody wants to see the receipts, okay, they're all here. I did not sign the check. I did not okay the check. And I take umbrage that certain parties are implying that I misused POA money. In fact, I lent them money, the POA. Now, in addition to that, there's one other item. When Jim Smock came down from Michigan, flew down here, and stayed in a hotel to interview, the board pre-approved an expenditure for him to do that. I used my American Express, okay? Because you can't book a plane ticket with a check. Try it. Okay, so that came to $1,468.87. Again, I didn't issue the check, I didn't approve the check, and I didn't sign the check. All right? Anybody wants to see the receipts, they're right here. You're welcome for me advancing the POA money.
Thank you for money into it.
All right. Oh, you're out of order. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to back up that I took the phone, I did the phone call to the city and waited 10 hours online to find out how Marvin did.
All right, all right. All right, do we have any other business?
I have a motion. Oh, no.
Marta.
Do you have one?
I just wanted to take the time to say thank you for what you've done in this community and your hospitality and all the community dinners that you arranged and that sort of thing, and we will miss you and we wish you the best.
Well, thank you. And
if we have no more business, Vicki, would you like to be signing off for us tonight?
yes, I motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:10 p.m.
Yeah. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Starry, starry night.